we've heard a lot about healing today. When it comes to Vlad about his spell work, when it came to the Rune Walker about cycles and how we embrace, moving forward. But what I don't hear a lot about is how astrology plays into everything that we go through, right? So I wrote a 5-page essay on this. So I'm going to try to read, but then give you what I think as well, because I start to mumble and I'll do it in 5 minutes. Okay. So if you guys do not know me, my name is Tabitha with Tabitha's Astro Divinations. I am a certified medical astrologer, Hellenistic, and modern. I've been doing this for many years, and it's a skill that I have to be able to put people's charts together and read them like a story. So I'm going to share some of my knowledge with you guys in hopes that you will take astrology more seriously. But before I start anything with my speech, I want to ask the audience, how many of you know your sun sign? Good. Okay. What about your rising? Ooh, okay. This is going to really be helpful.
I'm learning a lot.
Good, good. What about your moon sign? Wow. Okay. I can't wait to help you then. All right. So now I'm going to start reading with what I wrote in hopes that you guys will take something from this and learn. Okay. So hello everyone, and thank you for being here today. As we find ourselves at the end of winter, well into Aquarius season, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the dark night of the soul. But I'm not referring to it in the psychological sense. We're diving into an astrological perspective. So you hear about the dark night of the soul in therapy, in books, in media. But this does also relate to astrology, and I can kind of guide you through these times and show you a little bit about the transits coming up. So the dark night of the soul, this term originating from the 16th century mystic Saint John of the Cross, describes a period of profound spiritual desolation where one feels disconnected, lost, and stripped of all familiar comforts. But what if I told you this experience isn't just random? Astrology offers us a lens to understand these moments, framing them as the crucial stages in our soul's revolution or evolution. So like the Rune Walker talked about, we're going through cycles. And right now, we're in the darker times of the year. So astrology is a wheel of patterns, a continuous cycle of light and dark. From spring equinox to Samhain, we move through the brighter. That's when it's the time of the sun when it's known to astrology. So from spring equinox to Samhain, that's the lighter times of the year. More active half of the year, but from, let me see, I'm gonna start just speaking this for myself. Now from Samhain to spring equinox, that is considered the darker times of the year. But when we think of the dark in astrology or in life, what does that associate with? What do you think of when you think of the word dark? Sad? Sleep? Scary times? Night, yes. So culturally, we've been conditioned to fear the dark. Culturally, because this is not the way it's always been. Think about it. When someone hears someone being a Scorpio, what is it that comes to your mind? If you think of the zodiac sign Scorpio, or I knew a Scorpio and she was just so dark. I'm a Scorpio rising, so I am too. So often people react with suspicion, apprehension, but darkness isn't inherently bad. In fact, it's a powerful time of transformation and growth. The dark isn't something to fear. It is where real magic happens. Think of it. When we're putting a seed into the dark, where does it grow? It grows in the darkness. So when we're in the dark, in these darker times of the year, this is an opportunity for transformation. This is an opportunity to look at the things that we don't want to look at, to let them go, and to grow. And I didn't read that. So now let's bring that idea into phases of the moon. So this is really, I'm sorry if this is too advanced, but this is very important. Now, from the new moon to the full moon, we experience, like if you notice, from the new moon, everybody's setting their intentions. Everybody wants to, like, I have this new thing that I want to do and this new intention, and I want to manifest that. It is a time of blossoming growth and a forward momentum. But after the full moon, we move into the disseminating, last quarter, and balsamic phases. What happens after the full moon? Everybody kind of goes quiet or internal. They're kind of seeing, did anything happen from that full moon? Can I harvest anything from that full moon? So astrology and the wheel of the year is related to the moon cycles. So for example, if I would compare the wheel of the year to the moon phases, the new moon would actually be Yule, or the winter solstice. Spring equinox would be more of like the new moon. So in astrology, the wheel the wheel of the year is connected to our moon phases. And I'm not going to go deeper with sun. You guys will get lost. So as I was saying, the disseminating, the last quarter, and balsamic phases, they correspond to darker times of the year. And they're often overlooked and undervalued in modern society because back in ancient times of our ancestors, they used these times for growth. These are really good times for spiritual, like divination, to connect to your ancestors, to look in towards your soul and to see, what don't I want? What can I grow from? What do I need to rest from? Now, Demetra George is one of my favorite astrologers, so I'm going to put her name in here. She beautifully associates these phases with the archetypes of the crone, a wise elder who embodies reflection, insight, and acceptance. So the disseminating, the last quarter, and Beltane, that is related to the crone because it's where we collect all of our wisdom. I'm going to give you a chance to write a little. I'm sorry. Are you guys following me so far? I am shaking. So when we look at our culture today, we're obsessed with staying in the maiden phase, that perpetual state of beginnings, youth, and outward energy. We're taught to fear aging, to revisit the natural cycle, to resist the natural cycles of life. Our ancestors, however, viewed these darker phases very differently. To them, these times represented wisdom, honor, and respect. The dark was a space of deep knowing, much like the vast, mysterious night sky. Instead of seeing it as something to avoid, they embraced it as a necessary part of life's wisdom or rhythms. So let me explain it this way. When we get that first gray hair, what does that tell us? We're no longer that maiden, and it strikes a fear because in society we see everybody that is young, everybody that is in their beginning stage of life And society now has taught us that we need to get rid of that wrinkle or look 10 years younger, not embracing that inner wisdom that we do carry. You know, back in ancient times, villagers would go to the elders and they would respect and honor them, but now, where are they? They're pushed aside so no one can see them. Therefore, how are we going to learn from everything that they've learned? That's what society is. For us to help empower our youth, we need to know from our elders where to go. So now that we've established how astrology mirrors these darker times of the year, it's important to recognize that energy isn't just limited to seasonal cycles. So yes, you know, from Samhain to spring equinox, it is the darker time of the year. And this is a time where we transform, where we look at our shadows, where we let go of the things that are limiting us. And people usually say, you know, I'm not going to, doctors may say this is more, you know, that sad what is that disorder where people get very sad when they don't have sunlight? Yeah. So because that's darker times, they're forced to sit with themselves. And what it is meant for and what our ancestors did try to help, you know, what they did was try to, on Samhain, they would actually have big feast during Samhain, and they would pay all of their debts, and they would come clean about everything that they've done wrong and try to make amends in their villages or in their, you know, little communities. So it wouldn't stay with them during the dark times. That's what really the dark times are about, is just embracing the things that, yes, everyone makes mistakes, own up to it so we can move forward. This is the slowest I've ever talked. So there are personal cycles that can feel just as heavy or introspective. Demetra George, again, my favorite astrologer, also highlights how month before your birthday, known as your solar return period, can feel like a mini dark night of the soul. So that month before, we're going to turn, like I turned 43. I was so happy about 43, though, because I did not like my Uranus opposition. But I was dreading 43. I'm like, I'm getting older. What's going to happen this year? I don't have energy for this. And you feel more tired. If you pay attention to that last month before your birthday in astrology, that's where the sun is in right before your natal sun sign. So you're going to feel that a little bit more. What are the things that we need to shed and let go of? And that's what that's meant for. It's actually, but once you get past that solar return where, okay, the sun went to the same place as your natal sun, there's more empowerment. Okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. So if someone were to make a resolution, I would actually do that during your solar return rather than like Samhain or the new year, January 1st. You need to base astrology on your chart and not just the social chart of everywhere around us. We need to pay attention to our personal alignments in order to empower ourselves. And we need to connect with these energies. Okay. I lost my place, but I got all excited. So it is a time when one chapter of your life is closing and another is about to begin, much like the waning phases of the moon. This period invites reflection, rest, and healing. And here's the thing, it's absolutely okay to rest. You hear that? It's okay to rest, because if we don't rest, for example, with that solar return, how are we going to have the energy for that new year? If we can't give ourselves a break, how are we going to go forward if we don't rest? And that could be mentally, emotionally, physically. It's okay not to always go forward like a worker ant. This is what I tell people all the time. Because with rest does come healing. And the body heals with rest. Okay, so in fact, it is necessary. Downtime is essential to prepare for the next cycle of growth and renewal that life brings. So think of each solar return. So that in astrology, that means each year of your birthday. That's a solar return. So I can pull up a natal chart for you, and I can read your life, right? But then each year during a solar return, I can read that year on what's to come. Now, I'm going to give you another example. Now, think of your sun being, there's 30 degrees in a chart. Think of your sun in the beginning of your life at 1 degree, right? As you grow and as the years go on, those degrees go further into your chart, giving you more experience as your sun sign. So I might have been born as a Sagittarius that really wondered what the world was about, seeking my truth. But as I've grown older, Sagittarius actually rules astrology. So I've lived into, and I'm moving into my true sun sign. So with each year, embrace your knowledge. Embrace the things that you are moving forward with. With the good, I'm going to say the bad. Okay. So then, of course, we can't forget about the Saturn return. That infamous rite of passage where Saturn comes back to your same place it's occupied at the time of birth. And usually around the ages 29, that's your first one, 58, and 88, Saturn brings lessons in responsibility, structure, and discipline. It's not always comfortable, but it's a powerful period of transformation and maturation. So when you think of Saturn, I don't know if anyone knows about Greek mythology. You guys know who Kronos is? Okay. Kronos is, he used to eat all his kids, I do know that. But Kronos is that energy that is considered the greatest malefic in astrology. So modern astrologers don't like to say malefic or the chart, all of the planets are good. No, there's some challenges because if we don't have challenges in life, why are we here? We need to grow. So when we're at Saturn returns, these are when you need to take things slow, and that can feel like a dark night of the soul. It can make it very slow, and you can't rush it. You can't rush. If you go to an astrologer and they're like, you're going through your Saturn return and you're like, no, but I want this now. If you don't do the work, you won't get it at all. Saturn does not play. So, and beyond Saturn, there are certain planetary transits that can stir up similar feelings when planets move through houses like your 6th house, your 8th, and your 12th. Now, the 6th house has to do with everyday life, but it's also your health and astrology, or your work, or your work life. Now, the 8th house has to do with everything taboo. I'll name some of them. To me, it's not taboo, but to other people, it may be. So, occult, witchcraft, fear, death, other people's money, taxes. If you have Saturn transiting through your 8th house, you better not cheat in your taxes. You will be held accountable. I've seen it in other people. So I try to tell them not to invest during those times, but it can feel like a dark night of the soul because we're being taught lessons. Everything will not come to us easily. Everything will not come with a blink of the eye or a snap of your finger. If you want things, you need to work for them. And yes, dark night of the soul or the dark times of the year may feel lonely. It may feel dark. But if we put one step in front of each other and plant that foundation in a solid way, that next Saturn return won't be as challenging. So usually as it goes through your chart, it's not as challenging when it's there first. So if you have a Saturn return at 29 at 58 and you have that second one and you've laid those foundations, you actually get rewarded from that instead of punishment. And I'm not trying to say it's punishment, but hey. Now, with the planets going through our houses, we're going to have to confront certain things. Now, for 2025, this is one of the most major astrological years there has been in, I would say, about 250 years. 2025 is huge. So things might feel like we're not able to control much. But if you do follow my Facebook, it's Tabitha's Astro Divinations. I do guide people, like I give free information out there, absolutely free, that you can learn from. And you don't have to book with me for that. So today, this morning at 3:15 a.m., when I couldn't sleep, I wrote about Mars retrograde. Right now, everything seems a little bit more challenging than it actually is. Right now, we are going through some major type of dark night of the soul, especially for Scorpio and Aries, because Mars is retrograde. When Mars in astrology, it's a planet of action, right? When it goes retrograde, it feels like we're not able to move forward. And what does that create? Internal unrest, anxiety. This is like the best example that I can give to you. Move slowly and go backwards because you're missing something. We all are in some way. And the planets are not here to really punish people or to harm them. They're here to guide us like a map. Our chart is like a map. Okay. Let me see if I got all of this. All right. So here's the key takeaway. Whether it's the dark half of the year, the waning moon, the moon before your birthday, or a major transit like your Saturn return, these darker periods aren't something to dread. They are necessary pauses in the rhythm of life. So if you're feeling stuck right now, there is a reason. Okay? Are you okay? If you're feeling like there's a nagging feeling and you just can't let that go, there's a reason. You need to reevaluate that. There are opportunities of deep growth, transformation, and healing. Without the dark, we wouldn't appreciate the light. Without rest, there is no renewal. So how can we navigate the darker times of the year? Does anyone know? I may feel like I want to hide in the corner. Does anyone know how to navigate the dark? Yes. Buy a flashlight. Oh, that's a good one. Buy and a flashlight. I did write some pointers for you guys. Okay. I wrote pointers. So embrace rest. Allow yourself to slow down. If you didn't clean the whole house today, it's okay. You can do the rest tomorrow. You don't have to be perfect. Rest is not laziness. It's preparation for the next phase of growth. Before that caterpillar can become a butterfly, what does it do? It's in that cocoon. And think of the darker times of the year as us being in our own cocoon. There's a massive internal change going on, always, but especially during these times of the year. So reflect and journal. Use this time to look inward. Journaling can help you process emotions, recognize patterns, and gain clarity on what needs to be released or transformed. So, of course, for me, journaling is a little bit more challenging because then I'm like, I feel really weird writing to myself. But keeping track, like what I do is I track my moods during the moon phase, my mood during the moon phase, or I keep track of certain goals that I put forward. And then, like, if I do a new moon intention, like, let me give you an example. If I want to write a speech here, right? I've already written the speech, right? That's the new moon phase, but the full moon phase would be reading it out loud. And then after that full moon phase would come up, it would be the disseminating. After I get off the stage, I'm gonna be like, did you guys like it? Was that too much? So, and then the last quarter, what did I learn from that experience? And then Beltane, okay, I'm ready to let go of the nervousness and not feeling comfortable in my own skin and embracing my own power. So really use the moon phases to embrace new yous, because we're never going to be the same. We're always going to change. We're always going to grow, no matter how challenging that is. And one person that I cannot remember who said this or what person this said, we do not have a soul. We have a body. Our soul is something that we will always take with us, no matter where we are. So think of those darker times of the year as a time where we can transform that soul into, you can call it a higher elevation, or you can call it another beautiful color on your butterfly wing. Connect to your ancestral wisdom. Our ancestors honored these cycles. Look to ancient traditions, rituals, or even family stories for guidance. Our ancestors were a lot smarter than we are, I'm convinced. They created astrology. The last known proof of an astrological chart was 250 BCE. The Egyptians patented and gave it houses and beacons. How do they know all of that? I look at charts from a computer. If I would to look at the sky, I would be a little bit more clueless. So ancient knowledge is important. If you don't understand something, or if it feels like something's missing, research that. This is going to help you grow in knowledge. And knowledge is happiness to me, and knowledge is power. Practice mindful release, whether it's through meditation, ritual, or simply letting go of old habits. Consciously release what no longer serves you. So we know this. We've heard this many, many, many times. Okay. Another thing is seek support. So I don't want you hiding in the corner. No corner. Don't be afraid to lean on community, whether it's your friends, family, or a trusted astrologer. Sharing your experiences can lighten the emotional load, but astrologers are not therapists. If you need a therapist, get a therapist. I can only do so much for you. I'm not qualified to say, I can heal all of your problems, but I can kind of dive into it and help. And honor your lessons. This morning, as I was driving to Winterfest, or Vlad was, I had a memory. When I was little, I believe I was like 5, 6 years old, I remembered talking to the stars. And I would always talk to them when I was sad. And today, I looked up in the sky and I said, thank you. Honor your lessons. Remember that every dark period brings valuable lessons. Instead of resisting, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? And as you move through your own cycles, whether they're celestial, and I do not like crying, seasonal or personal, remember that these darker times are not obstacles. They're invitations to slow down, reflect, and honor the wisdom that comes from within. Embrace the dark, because it's where your true transformation begins. And I do want to share a quote, and then I will open it up for questions. And I wrote this on my Facebook. The celestial bodies are not sought by us outside in some other place, for the heavens in their entirety are within us, in whom the light of life and the origin of heaven dwell. Marso Ficino. So we're always looking up for a connection. Like since we're little kids, we look up at the moon. We look for a connection and to have an answer for some, from something or from someone, whether that be astrology, whether that be religion, faith, all of that. But we do not realize that that connection is already within us because we're a part of the universe. Okay, so that was the end part of that. So if you have questions about astrology, I'm here to answer. Yes? Yes. Yes. So Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. And October 4th, entered its shadow period, so you should have started seeing that funk around then. And then it stationed retrograde on December 6th when it was going through Leo. So we were starting to see that we were going a little bit backward and not getting, accomplishing the goals that we set. But then Mars went into Cancer on January 6th, where it's its fall. And when Mars is in Cancer, people tend to be over-emotional. They tend to act too quickly. This can come as disruption, or if you hold your anger in, it can even come out as like being accidental prone, like banging your knee or just feeling overwhelmed or exhausted. Thankfully, we're almost over that Mars retrograde. It's going direct on February 23rd. But until then, we still need to go slowly. Yoga can help with this. Stretching, mindfulness, acting, but acting in an internal way because there's something internal that you're feeling from this. Yeah. Yeah. So what stretching really does help, like Mars is the planet of action. So if you even do that for your body, that can really help. So you're very welcome. Yes?
So you said that the month prior to your birthday, that's called the solar return?
No, the solar return is your birthday, but it's kind of considered that solar return chart for your solar return. So the month prior to your birthday is your solar return. So if that makes sense.
My birthday is the solar return.
Yes. So
What's the month prior?
it's not called anything. That's just like the darker, like it would be considered like the darker night of the soul or that transformation period before the new beginning. Yeah. It's kind of similar to the Wheel of the Year if you put that based on your birthday.
So my birthday would be Yule? Or what?
That was just like a comparison. So when is your birthday?
October 2nd.
So September would be your month where you need to slow down and reflect. And every year, like you have a birthday, that's your solar return because that's where the sun reaches the same point when it was when you were born. Of course. Any other questions, guys? Okay. Are you sure? I'm pretty good at what I do. Okay. So if we don't have questions, I will let you go. And I know it went fast, but it's okay. Thank you for letting me teach you about astrology.